Hi, welcome to Foxy's Little Nuggets. Four small but perfectly formed little chunks of political lunacy, I think. Um, there's all sorts of things. How could I describe tonight's? There's champagne, cabinets, cocks, and the world's most expensive phone line. Let's go into this. Oh, and we have a great and finally as well, so stick around for that one. Yeah, do also hit the subscribe button. We're trying to build the channel. We're getting up there. We want to get to 10,000. Only you can do that. So absolutely, if you're here and you're watching this, hit that button. Don't miss them. Anyway, helmets on. That's a pun. You'll see why. Because story one is the Cox in Frocks story. Detective Constable Rachel Fletcher, well, technically ex-Detective Constable Rachel Fletcher, has now been sacked by Northumbria Police. This is following a gross misconduct hearing over comments made privately to colleagues. Among the remarks the panel found she made were, "All men are the R word," suggestions that men should have a 9 p.m. curfew, and the phrase which is inevitably afraid become the headline, referring to trans women, or men, as cocks in frocks. I don't like that term. I just think it's very wrong. Frocks can be nice and attractive. No. Not so much the cock, of course, but I prefer pretendy Wendy's. It's a much friendlier term, isn't it? Anyway, Fletcher denies using that particular phrase and says the wider dispute arose after she objected to guidance, which would have required female officers to conduct intimate searches of biologically male detainees who identify as a woman. And on this, I'm standing entirely with her. That guidance has subsequently changed, of course, with current police guidance generally requiring intimate searches to be conducted by an officer of the same biological sex. Now, you could certainly argue that a choice of language perhaps lacked a little bit of diplomacy. She's not exactly Foreign Office material, but she worked in child protection. She's seen some of the very worst things. And so I can understand her view in a lot of things. And I don't think she should have been fired. Maybe a warning about, say, language. But it's a very difficult job. And it takes special people to be able to do it. But if Britain's reached a stage, I think, where everybody expects police officers to become, how can I put this? People who deal with the very worst of people, if you will, dealing with, the R's of women, PDFs, abusers. If we expect police officers who need to deal with this to speak as though they're in Downton Abbey, I think we've lost the plot somewhat. Often gallows humour and that kind of conversation happens. Certainly in all stressful jobs. You don't necessarily speak, with a bit sort of received pronunciation, especially in Northumbria. So I'm very much with her, but let me know what you think about that. Number two is Andy Burnham, because we always have to have an Andy Burnham story. Andy Burnham has been making an absolute massive great deal out of his new northern-flavoured government. More northern voices, more attention outside of London. Number 10 North, everything, the North remembers. Well, presumably, cabinet meetings will shortly begin with an Oasis track and somebody asking whether anyone fancies a Greggs. But until then, we'll just have to plod on, won't we? But the Reform chairman, Lee Anderson, is distinctly unimpressed with this northernness, basically. He's dismissed suggestions that Burnham can simply win back the Red Wall voters by filling his government with people possessing northern accents, arguing that underneath the regional rebranding, it remains essentially the same Labour government. It's the same familiar faces just sitting in different chairs, and the same Labour policies. Reform has previously attacked Burnham's cabinet as merely reshuffling familiar faces. And now Anderson has spotted the fatal flaw in Labour's strategy. People in Northern England did not abandon Labour because there was insufficient Northerners on television. They abandoned Labour because they stopped liking what Labour was doing and saying. Putting gravy on the manifesto does not necessarily fix that problem. Burnham undoubtedly understands Northern England better than, say, Starmer ever could. But if the policies remain unpopular, surrounding himself with people who pronounce Bath properly is unlikely to constitute an electoral revolution. And speaking of the Labour cabinet, number 3, we're going on to the Champagne Socialism, and the morning school run, because Britain's new mad energy secretary, Miatta Fan Buller, has found herself facing that most traditional of Labour accusations. Champagne socialism. Oh, in this case, it most definitely is. Fan Buller has somehow managed to have 3 children, and reports of that is that all 3 attend private schools. And we know how much Labour hates private education. So why is she, and a party that is officially against private education, putting her 3 children through private education? Is it because she knows that the state system is rubbish and she wants a good education for her children? And of course, across the whole of Parliament, both sides, even Labour backbenchers now, are shouting, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. They've all got it in for her. And this, of course, is because Labour imposed VAT on independent school fees. She herself was also privately educated, so she knows the benefit of a good education, something you don't get in the state system. Now, there's nothing remotely wrong, of course, with sending your children to private school. Not at all. If you earn the money and you can afford it and you pay the fees and believe it's the best education for your children, jolly good luck to them. The difficulty arrives is when your political movement spends years explaining that private education is an engine of inequality, and you join a party whose official line is that private education is evil. Just for other people's children, not for yours. And members of that same movement mysteriously discover that little Tarquin simply thrives with the smaller class sizes and the better equipment, doesn't he? It's one of the great traditions, I think, of socialism, isn't it? Private medicines is terrible. Don't go, private medicine's awful. Then you hurt your knee. And all of a sudden it's off to Bupa. And schools, state schooling is the best schooling you can get until little Tarquin comes along. Champagne is an obscene symbol of capital excess, right up until someone passes you the bolly. But to be fair, Van Buller, politicians are entitled to make private choices for their families, but voters are equally entitled to notice when the revolution appears to have rather generous exemption for the revolutionaries' children. Also, you know she gets a tax break for it. Yeah. Now to Scotland, and the world's most expensive telephone answering service, where the SNP government has provided the LGBT Health and Wellbeing Group with substantial public funding for services supporting people affected by what they call conversion practices. No, you're not a woman, you're a man, you know. Well, the Scottish Government figures show that £227,000 was provided to this group between 2024 and 2026, with additional funding also reported. The service offers private and live chat support for access to aid and help and so forth. 227,000. You'd imagine it'd be a busy service needing that sort of money. So how many phone calls do you get? How many phone calls has this £227,000 service received? 4. I'll say it again, because I don't think you heard me. 4. That's 56,000, more or less, £56,000 per phone call. 4. Now, strictly speaking, you cannot simply run something like this and say it was £56,000 phone call. It wasn't. It was maybe £30 a phone call. So you have to ask, where the hell has all the rest of the money gone? Flights, champagne, caviar, who knows? Public money is scarce. Should we be wanking it away on 4 phone calls? I think not. Unless that phone is made of solid gold, something is deeply amiss. Let me know what you think there. Anyway, we have an and finally, and the and finally is that the eagles have landed. It's genuinely magnificent, actually, the story. White-tailed sea eagles. Very rare, generally, and although they once lived in Ireland, they went extinct. Well, they've continued to make a comeback. Folk Wildlife Park in County Cork has announced the successful hatching and fledging of a rare white-tailed sea eagle chick, the first born there for over a decade. The species disappeared from Ireland over 100 years ago, before conservation programmes even existed. And these are not discreet little garden birds. They're Europe's largest eagle. And so they're coming back. Wingspan, 2.5 metres. If one lands on your bird table, let's just say the sparrows have lost. What a wonderful story. Human beings spend enough time proving they can make wildlife disappear, and now we can make it come back as well. So welcome home to those enormous feathery monsters that can carry off small dogs. Yeah. Let me know what you think. Thanks very much for watching. You're all marvellous. Goodbye.